who's done great in free agency? Whose free agent moves make you go, uh-oh, I don't like that? And to me, I'll throw out a few options for you. Detroit got DJ Reader to add to Aiden Hutchinson up front to stretch out that line. That to me is a major get. They also got a couple young DBs, I believe. Packers got Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. That's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
The Commanders, my God, I did a video on this because I couldn't believe it. The Commanders got like a whole new team. Now, the Commanders' offseason is going to be predicated on who they pick number 2. They pick the right quarterback, it's going to be a good year. They pick the wrong quarterback, it'll be a bad year. But they got Nick Allegretti, my good buddy, Tyler Biadasz or whatever from Dallas, the center. Biadasz. He's pretty good. Bobby Wagner, Austin Eckler, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Marcus Mariota, Zach Ertz, really underrated signing in Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, who I love, Cleveland Farrell, Brandon McManus. And they re-signed Jamison Crowder and Jeremy Reeves, a couple of their own guys. Dude, Adam Peters, my God. He's kicking ass. The Ravens got Derrick Henry. That's pretty damn good when you think about what they already have, and they franchised Matabuke and got a long-term deal done with him. When I say, the free agent winner so far, who do you guys think of? And who steps up in your mind?
I'll give you 2. I like Green Bay and the Rams. And I hate doing free agent winners and losers because, like I said at the beginning of the show, 90% of the time, the best winners in free agency are the teams that didn't do the deal, right? It's the team that let the guy walk and didn't give him that contract. It's not just that the team signed a player and it was a lot of money, it was a bad contract. It's also we're complimenting the right moves of letting guys walk. But if we're going just off of who's signing and we're going off of, okay, what is the practicality of their signing? I think Josh Jacobs was a home run signing. I like Josh Jacobs to Green Bay. I think that's a better signing than Saquon to the Eagles. I think that Josh Jacobs will be more impactful for Green Bay than Saquon will be to the Eagles. And I think Xavier McKinney is just straight up an upgrade from Darnell Savage. They got better. So I think the Packers had a really strong free agency with those 2 signings. And then Green Bay, the Rams, Jonah Jackson's a stud guard. When you look at how mean they are up front now with Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson, Jonah Jackson, this is back when McVay had Roger Saffold. They signed him in 2018, Roger Saffold to play right guard, or 2017, excuse me. This is that kind of situation with Jonah Jackson. They got bigger, meaner with their offensive line. Darius Williams is an underrated player for them to bring back. He is a very solid corner. Cameron Curl, obviously now, very good player. So I like what the Rams have done. I think that they're going to have a nice team around Stafford and Puka. And I think that I actually think that the dynamics of their matchup with the 49ers, I don't know if they're going to change. I don't know if this Rams team is better than the other Rams teams that have played them, but I think this Rams team is now more competitive against the 49ers because they had a real size issue against the 49ers for so long. Houston's another one I would throw in there, but I don't know what they're going to do with defensive tackle. So until they do something there, I can't put them there. But with the Rams, they've had a size issue with the 49ers for so long, and now they're bigger with what they did at defensive tackle last year. The rookie, I'm blanking on his name. Was it Kobe Turner? Yeah. Kobe Turner.
And you mentioned Avila. Don't they have 3? Aren't those 3 guys all guards?
Yeah, they're all guards. I think.
So who's going to play center?
Exactly. I think one of them will kick to play center.
Maybe Avila, because Avila's a monster, man.
He's it's just so big up front. And they had such issues with the Niners' size for so long. And when you lose Eric Armstead, you're losing size. And as good as Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave are, they're more undersized compared to Eric Armstead. And so that's where, Smith could be right. But I think the Rams now have a better chance in this matchup than they've had in years past because they'll match up better in the lines of scrimmages. So, yeah, they would be my other one, unfortunately.
Jesse, who do you got?
No, I think both. I think those are both great options. I'll give you 2 more just because I think obviously Kansas City hasn't gotten worse. In fact, they've signed everybody that they should have, and then they just got Hollywood Brown, but they're in the AFC. And so I'm looking at how this impacts the 49ers. Kansas City's a team that you worry about in the Super Bowl, but the NFC was one of the easiest conferences ever that I can remember in a long, long time. And everybody seems to be closing the gap. All the teams that you are worried about closing the gap, the Rams in division. You look at, although stay tuned on them, by the way. Rams in the division. You've got the Lions. You've got Green Bay. You've got Philly, who everybody thought was kind of left for the dead, but you look at what they've done. So I'll go with Detroit and Philly. I mean, Philly has done a phenomenal job. They went and got Huff, another really good pass rusher. Now, that tells me there's a possibility that they move on from maybe Reddick, who was looking to try to get dealt potentially. But if not, and they just added him and they've got 3 really good pass rushers on the edge again, it's like, well, that defensive line's as great as it's ever been potentially. And then you see Barkley goes there. Gardner Johnson went there. I mean, they've done a really good job. And then the Lions, their issues were pretty much all defensive. And they just got Reader up the middle. They went and got 2 corners. Probably going to go get a pass rusher through the draft or what have you. The Lions have closed the gap as well. So, I mean, we talked about 4 teams in the NFC. Vish gave 2. I gave the other 2. And I think all 4 have done good. And then the biggest thing really for Philly was the fact that they replaced both their coordinators and upgraded in a big way there. So that's the real big win for them. And then you add all the weapons, like, okay, well, they've done a pretty good job.
Cox and Kelsey gone though. That's the one L they took. That's like,
yes, but here's the one thing that people are forgetting. Okay, Kelsey's great. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but they drafted a center, arguably the best center in the draft, in the Cam Jurgens in the 2021 draft.
Year before they drafted arguably the best center in Landon Dickerson. You're right. Exactly. But I think what they're missing from those 2 players is a cultural issue. Like, I think the linchpin in Philadelphia with this Howie Roseman era is that Andy Reid drafted one of them, right? He drafted Brandon Graham on his way out. Brandon Graham was a bust for 2 years. He turned out to be a long-standing stud. Lane Johnson, long-standing stud. You take the 3rd tackle in a draft where 2 tackles go in the first 3 picks and you have by far the best player, that's robbing a bank. And then Fletcher Cox was a stud from day one. He fell to them. Another Mississippi State defensive tackle, Krug. Add to Jeff Simmons. Add to who did we mention else? Or Chris Jones. There you go. There's the 3rd name, Fletcher Cox. And then they had Jason Kelsey, who was a rob the bank pick. I think they relied on those 4 players being so consistent, their leadership. I know what you're saying. Jalen Carter is as good as anybody I've seen, but that personality issue with Jalen Carter, I wonder if when things go wrong, like Fletcher Cox was such a consistent soundboard force for them, and I think his leadership meant a lot for a team that seems to be lacking leadership. And I guess that's why I'm doubting Philly. You're right. On paper, the signings are fantastic, but I just go back to a team that I felt like was lacking leadership, lost 2 of their 4 most prominent leaders. I'm fading them again.
I'll say this about Philly. I love Devin White and I love CJ Gardner Johnson, and I won't be a hypocrite because if the Niners had signed those guys, I'd be doing cartwheels. So I can't sit there and say that I don't like the Eagles getting those guys. But it's a major loss when you lose Big Cox in the middle. I mean, it's a major loss. Anytime you lose Big Cox in the middle, that's a major one.